They got it on recording. Oh my goodness.
All right, so I think I know where I'm at, but that doesn't necessarily mean anything. Last week, I think we were in the area here somewhere where it says an angel is totally the manifestation of a single emotion and essence. Is that correct? For those of you that keep track?
Back in a minute. I have that we ended on page 6, so that's probably what, then angel is the one who affects transfers of the vital plenty between worlds. Is that what you just said?
Not quite.
Okay.
I did say something about angels. Because I know we talked about the angels as far as in this realm, in Asiya, in the world of Asiya, in the physical realm. But we had started on the next level, which is the world of Yetzirah, or the world of formation, where an angel, its manifestation is an emotional manifestation.
Was it
Yeah,
on?
we
Was
got to
it
get a
on?
move on.
Was it on page 9 under angels have been revealed to humans?
No,
No,
that's
on page 5, the
before
first
that.
paragraph
7,
down.
somebody said.
Right, I have that, well, on my PDF, I should say.
Okay.
On the PDF, okay.
The last thing we read was from our world to the higher worlds. So we should be starting on the paragraph where it says the real difference between man and angel.
Now I got to find that. The real difference. Here.
On page
Okay,
6
got it.
of the book.
All right. Then that's where we shall start. The real difference between man and angel is not the fact that man has a body, because the essential comparison is between the human soul and the angel. So, our essence, because our body is not our essence, it's just our vehicle, where the vehicle of the angel is light. He doesn't have our kind of body. The soul of man is most complex and includes a whole world of different existential elements of all kinds, while the angel is a being of single essence and therefore, in a sense, one-dimensional. And that's why we are, that's why the angels can't fathom. They can't fathom our well, not, freedom too, right, but we can do different things. That's in essence it. We have the capacity to do more than one thing and be more than one thing. Not only do we have choice and freedom in what we do, but also who we will be. We choose what kind of human we are going to be. Parents always ask children, what you gonna be when you grow up, right? You have a choice and maybe a dream of something. And then when you get there, then you might change your mind, and maybe you become, let's say, a policeman. You have the choice to change that. I don't want to be a policeman anymore. I want to be a doctor, or I want to be a lawyer, or whatever. So we can transform ourselves if we want to. An angel cannot. An angel is what it is. In addition, man, because of his many-sidedness, that's the word I was looking for, his capacity to contain contradictions, and his gift of an inner power of soul, that divine spark that makes him man, has the capacity to distinguish between one thing and another, especially between evil and good. It is this capacity which makes it possible for him to rise to great heights, and by the same token, creates the possibility for his failure and backsliding, neither of which is true for the angels, for the angel. And we are talking about the angels of formation right now. From the point of view of its essence, the angel is eternally the same. It is static, an unchanging existence, whether temporary or eternal, fixed within the rigid limits of quality given at its very creation. So an angel does not change itself. And depending on the hierarchy of angels, some angels have more things to do than maybe a lower angel, like the archangels. They are there eternally, right? But there are other angels that are not there forever. They're just going to be reabsorbed whenever their job is done. Among the many thousands of angels to be found in the various worlds are those that have existed from the very beginning of time, for they are an unaltering part of the eternal being and the fixed order of the universe, like Michael, Gabriel, Uriel, Raphael. Those guys been there from the beginning and will always be there. These angels, in a sense, constitute the channels of plenty through which the divine grace rises and descends in the worlds. But there are also angels that are continuously being created anew in all the worlds, and especially in the world of action, where thoughts, deeds, and experiences give rise to angels of different kinds. So angels are continuously being created. And in our world, we are the creators of these angels. And the Jew understands the concept of mitzvot. The Christian looks at the mitzvot or the commandments and kind of has a frown, somewhere lurking on his face because, oh, how tiresome, I got to do that. Judaism doesn't feel that way because Judaism understands the mitzvot is a spiritual act and thereby creating and connecting. So the Jew says, ooh, I get to perform the mitzvot. It's a privilege to them. It's a burden to most of Christianity. What's up, William?
So, I was thinking in the Nazarene Codice, where Paul encourages people to give money, because he said something to the effect, if you see someone in need of money, give them money because they may be an angel, unaware.
Yes.
And I couldn't help but think as we're going through this, what kind of angel? Is he a lowly angel in need of sustenance? I mean, I'm just trying to wrap my head around that. Because in Christianity, we only think of angels probably in a very abstract manner, meaning a celestial being, but not the way he describes it here.
Right.
In terms of a messenger, functional, one purpose, a fixed quality of life. And so I was just trying to understand, because it really gets back to this point then is, what was Paul really trying to convey? Not so much the angel aspect, but the mitzvah itself.
Right, both. Because there are some angels that are assigned to test mankind.
Okay.
And they will come and test and see if your mouth is, or if your money is where your mouth is.
But what about, if you look at the angels that first visited Abraham and Sarah, and then they went on to Sodom and Gomorrah and visited Lot, and they needed lodging, and they went to stay at his house, and of course the crazy people of the town wanted the angels, but he received the angels, he knew something. He perceived something.
Yeah, he knew it.
Where these people, blinded as they were, didn't perceive anything. They just out there.
Well, that in and of itself is kind of crazy, but I think the principle behind that, or the account behind that, is just indicative of how low that civilization sunk in terms of morality or being disobedient, which of course is why they were destroyed.
And inhospitable,
Well, that too.
Right.
because a Jew will put that on top of the list. Not the morality, but the inhospitability, yeah. Because that's on the top of the list, to be hospitable to people of any kind.
That's why Abraham what? They fixed the peace.
You even get to break laws of the Shabbat when company comes and you need to tend to their needs. It is above many laws. So to show hospitality is paramount in Judaism.
Okay, so what we're really saying is with Lot, and made the point that the angels needed lodging. It's whether they didn't need it or not, it's the fact that it's the mitzvah that was obeyed with respect to hospitality.
That's right.
Again, one of those mitzvah, although not codified, what was clearly understood by Abraham and the people that left with him, in this case, Lot.
Yeah.
That's how-
And in the
that's
New
how-
Testament, Jesus told us the reward you get for giving a cup of water to a prophet.
Yeah.
So it's paramount in Judaism
Yeah.
to be hospitable.
Did you drink this time?
Mamie took care of it.
And can I interject to ask a question? I
Sure.
understand the being hospitable part, but are you saying that like the Jews wouldn't have, I guess, even cared about the immorality part, or they just wouldn't?
Yeah, of course they would have cared about it. I'm just talking about as far as if you put it on a list, hospitality will be on the top of that list. Morality probably be number 2, but it is on the list. But hospitality, it is the principle of that love covers a multitude of sins. That's the principle that's in action, right? Because people don't know God, obviously they will do immoral things, So the Jew does not go around and judge people based on what they are doing, especially if they don't know God. They will treat them, if somebody came to their house, they will treat them like an angel just came through the door. They will offer it's not our job to judge people based on morality or what have you. That's God's job, and he most certainly did judge that city, both cities. He most certainly did that. But to the Jew, it is paramount. Any mitzvot that is a positive mitzvot, which hospitality is a positive, a do mitzvot, is always more paramount than a mitzvot that says I can't, or you can't do this or can't do that, the static ones. So they will always be on the top of the list, the do mitzvots, rather than the do not mitzvots. So because the do not, nothing changes if you don't do it. But when you do a good deed, everything changes. It can change the whole world by being kind to someone. So it weighs a lot more. Not that the others don't weigh, they do weigh, but the Jew is not concerned so much with sin. The Jew is concerned with what can I do? Exactly. What can I do? Not what I ain't not supposed to do.
Watch a lot of YouTube, and I've been watching where these guys have been going around cutting people's grass for them.
Oh, they need to come to my house.
And the thing is, they're cutting grass for people where they didn't have the money, or they're doing it for free.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of them are, the yards look like jungles, you
Right.
expect an elephant to come running out. But they come in and they cut the grass, trim it up, and they're doing it all for free. And a lot of these are older people who couldn't even get someone to do it for them, or they're too disability where they can't do it.
Mhm.
And we were watching the other day, and my husband was asking me, why they do that? And all I could think of was Tikkun Olam. I said, they're
Tikkun Olam.
fixing the world.
That's
because they're
right.
Doing a good deed
One
for
yard at a
someone,
time.
1 yard at a time.
That's
And
right.
it's slowly been expanding, because even it's showing with people, even in Australia, where the guys down there have been cutting people's grass, and they do it for free. And what happens is people watch it on YouTube, and then they send in donations to help them with their gas
Right.
or whatever.
Whenever you give, it God will see to it. It will come back to you. It will come back to you. Yes.
Dr. Connie, they say, be careful how you treat strangers because you may be entertaining angels.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And when that actually happens to you, you be like, wow. Because it did happen to me when I first got saved. I got tested right away. So,
And Dr.
yes.
um,
Who
Oh,
was
Dr.
that?
Connie, I was just going to say, Eva,
Okay.
there was many angels back in the Old Testament, and mentions angels in Psalms 103 and 20. So there's more than, like it says in what we're reading, there were different kinds of angels
Yeah, and they
throughout
still
the
here.
Bible. Mhm.
Yeah, they still here. People are just not aware of
Where?
angels. Even Christians, some Christians really do dismiss the existence of angels
Yeah, they
and the
also tell you don't
interaction with
study them or
man.
learn about them. They shun you
Yes.
from learning about them too. They don't really, they'll
Right.
tell you like, don't.
Oh, yeah, I learned about them in during my bachelor's. I was just studying. I was brought that to my memory.
And the
about
reason why they shy away from it is because of the scripture that says not to be angel worshippers. There's a
Right.
difference between learning about angels and actually
Angels.
worshiping angels.
Worshiping.
But
Right.
you throw the
You
whole
don't
baby
worship
out with the
them.
bathwater.
And
It
Dr.
says
Connie,
here, do not worship them. Huh?
once I actually I guess the reason why I don't pay that any mind is because once I was in a real crisis type of situation, and I actually saw an angel, and I had my twin baby boys and was going through something really horrible in my marriage. And you know how the cases of Similac used to be like really extremely expensive. And I had finally got enough money together to go to the grocery store and get the Similac. And by the time I got to the register with the two hollering little baby twins, I had lost my money because I went in the store with it in my hand. And when I got there and she rung it up, and I called myself, get ready and hand her the money, and I didn't have the money nowhere around me. And I said, I have to go back and retrace my path. And as I was going through the store to retrace my path, I saw this really tall man, and something said, look down. And when I looked down, his feet turned like weird, and my money was up under his feet. And I looked up, and it was a big old angel. It's like he was covering my money to make sure nobody picked that money up. And that's why I know for myself, angels are real. Because I mean,
They are.
I had no more milk for my babies, and I had like no way to feed them because I had an infection myself. And I know that was an angel sent to watch over that money till I got back, and nobody picked that money up.
Awesome.
That is good.
That's an awesome testimony.
Yes, it
Yes.
was.
Yes, it is. And if I
I-
look back, go ahead. Who was
Go-
talking?
No, you go on, Miss Dr. Connie.
As I look back over my life, I see many instances. As a matter of fact, William said Walmart. I actually, when I first moved to St. Louis, left my purse. When you take the cards back, I left my purse there, and I had no other money than what was in there. And I was almost home and realized I didn't have my purse. I about had a fit, and my babies were in the back seat, and I said, "Okay, let's go back." And you know what? That purse was still there.
Well,
That purse was still in that cart.
you know, we make light of this.
Wow.
Possibility. The fact of the matter is I personally believe that more people are honest than dishonest.
Sure, I believe that too.
Those that are dishonest try to.
Yeah,
show our
overshadow,
views on the
yeah.
whole, and you just can't allow yourself to do that.
That's right.
And unfortunately, and I think a lot of times people don't step back and try to see all sides to a situation and all the facts. Kind of gets back to what you were saying about the thing about the midrash and what we studied. I know that on this course we say, why? Why did they do that? Those are principles for life because we can ask ourselves those questions when situations come up. Why does this? Why would a person say that? Or why would you do this or that? So
Yes.
it's just a way of looking at things.
Yes. All right, moving on. Every mitzvah that a man does is not only an act of transformation in the material world, it is also a spiritual act, sacred in itself. And this aspect of concentrated spirituality and holiness in the mitzvah is the chief component of that which becomes an angel. In other words, when a mitzvah is done for the mitzvah itself, you're creating an angel.
So wait, when the mitzvah is done, does that angel still stick around? Or is it?
It
done?
creates a good angel that will serve a purpose. And it has something to do with whatever deed it is, you know, that angel will facilitate. So the angel that Devanche encountered in the store could have been the result of the creation of somebody who, you know, found somebody's money and gave it back. So we create whatever we do, that is what we create. And that angel then will help, you know, for however long that angel exists. And all those angels don't exist forever, but as long as you keep that line of living going on, that angel continues to exist, performing. Kind of like
Yeah.
that, yes.
Paying it forward. Is that what he said? Paying it forward? Yeah.
Yes. In other words, the emotion, the intention, the essential holiness of the act combine and become the essence of the mitzvah as an existence in itself, as something that has objective reality. And the separate existence of the mitzvah, by being unique and holy, creates the angel, a new spiritual reality that belongs to the world of formation, aka Yetzirah. So it is that the act of performing a mitzvah extends beyond its effect in the material world, and by the power of the spiritual holiness within it. Holiness in direct communion with all the upper worlds causes a primary and significant transformation. So the angel that you create can perform things in this world, but actually exists in the world above us. And it goes back to becoming co-creators with God. God creates angels, but so do you. And they affect the worlds above us. There's a correcting that is continuously going on, because that angel will be effective in that tikkun that needs to happen in all the worlds, not just our world. Because when the vessels broke, they broke from chesed all the way down. And all these vessels have to be perfected. Questions, comments?
There's a comment.
There's a what? Okay. Okay, well, let's go there. More precisely, the person who performs a mitzvah, who prays or directs his mind towards the divine, in so doing, creates an angel, which is a sort of reaching out on the part of man to the higher worlds. Such an angel, however, connected in its essence to the man who created it, still lives on the whole in a different dimension of being, namely in the world of formation, aka Yetzirah. And it is in this world of formation that the mitzvah acquires substance.
There's the issue. When I read that, the first thing that came to my mind was like doing a mitzvah can become rote.
It
Just
can.
like doing a prayer.
Exactly.
becomes
It
rote.
can.
And so, and that's the thing, I think, I mean, I can't speak to it. I know a lot of times we just do things maybe involuntarily, you know.
Right.
You see a man standing on the corner. We'd be in the car, he on the corner, Jen can see him from half a mile away. Before we can get to the light, she's already reaching to her purse, giving this dot.
I do the same thing.
And so even though I'm saying that you respond to that, I think what he is saying here, we do these things with the divine in
That's
mind,
right.
you know,
On purpose.
on purpose.
That's how the Jew would say, do it on purpose. They get up in the morning and say, okay, where can I do a mitzvah? They go
Yeah.
find themselves a poor person, a homeless person to do something good on purpose. See, I was taught opposite. I was taught, not to do things on purpose. And I actually had pastor's wife really mad at me because I wanted to give something to somebody. And I asked her, can you give it? Because I don't want her to know that I did that. You know, because the Bible says, don't let your right hand know what your left hand is doing. That was my intention. She went off on me. If you want to give her something, just give it to her. And she just went off on me. I said, okay.
But I think what it said is, even though you don't always think of it all the time, the intent behind it, if it's good nature,
Yeah.
we understand.
Empathy.
But the point is it is with divine intent.
Sure.
What we're really saying is, I think, is that the divine has been good for us.
That's
to
right.
us. So it enables us to spread that goodness.
That's right.
Okay.
And since these angels live in the world of formation, the world of emotion, when you are moved by someone because of their plight or what have you, and you give, that's intentional. You are moved by that emotion, that is empathy, and you extend, your hand towards that person. That gives substance in the world above. To me, the amazing thing is that, wow, look what we can do by doing a simple gesture. Something is created in the heavens that works for the benefit, not only of our world, but the world above as well.
I had an incident, I guess it was just last month or end of October. My cousin passed away suddenly. And so we went to the funeral, we had a repast, and my older sister and I, somehow, we don't know how this happened, but we ended up being in charge of the repast. So we organized how we wanted everything and some people helped us, and then we told them what we wanted to do. And then we were both really tired the next day. And then I was sitting there and I was like, how did I end up doing all that work? And I know I heard God say that you and your sister did a mitzvah. And said, you did a fixing of the word, a tikkun. And I said, oh, I hadn't even thought of it that way, but that was a tikkun. And then we got a thing from my cousin. She wrote us a note thanking us how well we had everything organized and how smooth everything went. It took a load off of her and her mom and her sister. And I was like, oh, I don't, didn't even know how I got into that, but it was a fixing because it really made a difference for them.
Yeah.
And the people that we serve too. And I guess you don't think about it in that way because it's not what we think about, first of all.
Right. But if you are raised that way and you're raised to do good, and not to judge the people, that's God's job. That ain't our job. You know, regardless of what they have done, you know, people say, well, don't give to them people, they need to go to work. To me, they're working. You staying out there in the cold and in the rain, that's work. Work matter. I literally have giveaway money, what do you call that thing for the sun? Yeah, on the dollar bills rolled up and stacked up, so I don't have to dig in my purse for that purpose alone. And people have gotten into my car and got
That's a good idea.
got the change out of my cup holders and stuff, but you know what? That money is still up there. I'm not out as much anymore as I used to be, but when I'm out and the light is red and I can reach them, all I have to do is and give it out. I do that automatically, you know, and I don't care what their reason is. If they're cheating, that's on them, right? It's on them. God knows. So I don't ask questions and I don't think about it. Just glad, you know, hopefully it will do some good. All right, this is the process by which the specific message or offering to God that is intrinsic in the mitzvah rises upward and introduces changes in the system of the higher worlds. We have the ability to make changes in the higher world. And that is represented in the Lord's Prayer. As it is in heaven, as it is in heaven, as it is on. Yeah, you know what I'm saying. I have to say the whole thing to say it right, right? But that's the principle. Yeah, see, there you go. It's hard just to say that one line from memory, right? I have to say the whole thing. As it is in heaven. So you know, so that in that world of Yetzirah, it's an emotional existence, and the angels respond to your emotions. You know, I used to be taught by one of my former pastors. He used to call me weak because I'd cried at the drop of a hat. You don't hardly see me cry now, but back then it was like a daily thing. Whether it was happy tears or not happy tears, you know, he considered me weak, and I was just stepping into the ministry. And he was really a non-emotional type of person. He didn't have much empathy or anything like that, and it really showed. He couldn't understand people that showed emotion, and it was labeled as weak, particularly me. You know, but you know, if it would have been taught and I would have realized that then so much more I could have done, you know, in hindsight, you know. But whenever we learn, we can always make the change. Now I don't know where I was. Okay, make changes. Okay, foremost in the world of formation. From here, in turn, they influence the world above them. Chain reaction. As above, so below. But it works the other way around as well, right? When a mitzvah is done on the earth with the right motivation, then it affects a change in the world of Yetzirah. And that change that is affected in the world of Yetzirah then affects a change in the world of Berea. That's awesome. What if humankind would understand who they truly are, we wouldn't have any problems on this earth.
So Dr. Connie, in Chronicles where it says, if my people who are called by my name will humble themselves. Okay, so how do we put that in the perspective of us doing is the mitzvah?
Prayer is a mitzvah. It's a mitzvah, yes.
So,
prayer with intention.
So since the world is like really jacked up right now, are we saying that we're not praying enough or not enough?
You know, I really can't answer that question because yes, we hear a lot of bad things and awful things, but you know, and I had that thought earlier, you know, people say all kind of bad things about the world, but the world is also beautiful and there's also kindness in the world. It's just not as publicized as the bad stuff. So
like my progressive commercial. The good news of today.
Yeah, everybody perceives that there is no good news. The truth is there is good news. but it's just not publicized. And all you have to do is look around you in your own house and see the good that has happened there. You know, I don't know the measuring stick of you know, what if good is better now or bad is better now. We most certainly hear more bad. That is most certainly true, but I can't imagine that we're living in a world where there is no more good, where there is no more beauty, and there is no more love. It is still
I think
there.
It's more sensationalism
Yeah,
with the bad news.
yes, because it makes rating money.
Ratings.
Yeah, you know, good news don't make that many ratings.
Now it's fake news that makes the ratings. I was like, is that why we pray for peace in Israel? Is for the new world to come, to speed up the new world to come.
Yes,
Okay.
because if Israel is in peace, it will spread out to all the worlds. And that's not just on the physical, local level, but Jerusalem also represents the world to come. It also represents heaven. So it spreads out from there, being the center of the earth from God's perspective, not from, you know, mathematical and so forth, science. Yeah. So we see that a supreme act is performed when what is done below becomes detached from particular physical, I think it's supposed to say a particular physical place, time, and person, and becomes an angel. Conversely, an angel is sometimes sent downward from a higher world to a lower. For what we call the mission of the angel can be manifested in many different ways. The angel cannot reveal its true form to man, whose being, senses, and instruments of perception belong only to the world of action. In the world of action, there are no means of grasping an angel. In other words, huh?
The angel. No, that's.
Oh, the angel, okay. Grasping the angel. Like Devontae saw, if she realized there was an angel. Huh?
Yeah, I'm with you. That's what I'm saying, yeah.
So what she perceived, she saw something that she could connect to, okay, that must be an angel. But the reality is, whatever she saw, that's not its true essence. That's not truly what it looks like, because we would not be able to perceive it with physical eyes and senses and so forth, because their spectrum is far greater. Yeah. Okay, it continues to belong to a different dimension, even when apprehended in one form or another. This may be compared with those frequencies of an electromagnetic field that are beyond the limited range of ordinarily perceived by our senses. We know that human vision assimilates only a small fragment of the spectrum. As far as our senses are concerned, the rest of it does not exist. A good example is in the book of Elijah, when Elijah asked God, would you please open up their eyes? And they begin to see what was really there. All the chariots that were there. Our natural eyes and ears and senses cannot, on a normal day, pick those kind of things up. Now, if God intervenes and opens your eyes, that's a different story.
Is this like really
Don't-
Well, that's what you would perceive it with.
You know, Dr. Connie,
Yes.
I think this was maybe 5-6 years ago. It was a big story how this woman in New York was walking through Central Park,
Mhm.
and she walked and she saw some guys and she was a little scared, but she just kept walking. And then there was a girl that walked right behind her, but the guys, they raped and killed her. So she went and asked to the jail, why didn't he do that to her? And he said, because you had those two big giant guys with you. I couldn't, he said, yeah, he said, I wasn't about to do anything with you. I mean, that's a known big story that has been
Yeah.
out that, yeah, That's
Yeah.
what was said.
And angels do these kind of things all the time. At that moment, these guys needed to see these two angels in a menacing, big type of guy, right? So yeah, it happens all the time. But that was, of course, divinely orchestrated. In our natural state, we don't see that.
But then that lends itself to this question. If it was divinely orchestrated, then are we saying that the victim agreed to come in for that specific purpose?
More than likely.
Yeah, no, because one could say, if they protected her, why not the victim?
The victim, in a sense,
Right.
protected her too. That's
So,
correct.
Yeah, that's
Yes.
kind of interesting now. But then again, there's a lot of things that we want to understand.
That which ordinarily invisible is seen only through appropriate instruments of transmutation or interpretation. When in the language of the Kabbalah, they are dressed in clothes or vessels that make it possible for us to apprehend them. As for example, radio or television waves have to be transmitted through appropriate vessels to be revealed to our senses. In the same way, they are aspects of the reality of the spiritual world of which we are only vaguely conscious. So in other words, the angels can see our TV shows.
Oh, they fight them crazy then.
Or they're having a good time, you never know. Even animals can sometimes be sensitive, if to a limited degree, to the presence of such a spiritual essence. Cats are known not only to watch television, but they are known to pick up spiritual beings in your home, or when they have them in the hospital, cats know when somebody's going to die. Cats are highly spiritual from our perspective. Yes. And some dogs can do too. I mean, sometimes dogs just start barking at something, there's nothing there, and you're like, what are you barking at? And they seeing something. You ain't, but they are. The ass of Balaam, for instance, who saw an angel, did not, of course, actually see an angel. Probably the animal had some obscure sensation of being confronted or threatened by something, aka the angel. So in other words, the donkey saw something, but not the pure essence of the angel. However, we perceive an angel when an angel appears. That's not really what that angel looks like. Angels have been revealed to human beings in either of two ways. One is through the vision of the prophet, the seer, or the holy man. That is an experience by a person on the highest level. The other is through an isolated act of apprehension by an ordinary person, suddenly privileged to receive a revelation of things from higher levels. And even so, when such a person or prophet does in some way experience the reality of an angel, his perception, limited by his senses, remains bound to material structures, and his language inevitably tends to expressions of actual or imagined physical forms. Thus, when the prophet tries to describe or to explain to others his experience of seeing an angel, the description verges on the eerie and fantastic. And of course, Ezekiel is a prime example there, right? When you read the vision that, even John, when they have their experience, they're trying to explain something that is not fathomable. So they do the best they can with what they can compare it to explain it to someone else. But it's just a sliver of the actual reality that exists. Terms like winged creatures of heaven or eyes of the supreme chariot can be only a pale and inadequate representation of the experience, because this experience belongs to another realm with another system of imagery. And I do a lot of meditations, and even in our congregation once a month we do meditations as a group. And and we're learning now that You can tell where, on what level you are in your meditations by what you see. Like for instance, in the realm of Yetzirah, like he says, it's an emotional place. There won't be a lot of imagery, but there will be a lot of feeling and sensing and knowing. But if you're in the world of Asiya, in this world, you may see everything that exists here, butterflies, trees, grass, flowers. They are representations or symbols of the spiritual world. The world of Berea is straight up intellect, straight up into. So the forms of communications basically let you know where or whom you are talking to while you are in a meditation. And he goes on to talk about, the scripture about the ox, the man-like being that he sees who has 4 faces, and one of the faces is like an ox. Well, obviously, there's no being running around up in heaven with 4 faces, and one looks like an ox. But he perceived that there's a likeness of the ox that is within that person, so very spiritual things that he's now trying to explain in a physical kind of way.
So, in reality, and I say this in our opinion, we as humans sometimes we can look at another human being and see features in that specific person that reminds us of a creature. I'm not.
Yeah, like those pictures, the dogs and their owners, they look alike.
So forth. I was in service, very nice, attractive woman, but her facial features were long, and they reminded me of Mr. Eagle.
A horse.
Absolutely. I'm not saying that she didn't per se take on a horse,
Right.
but her persona reminded me of that. Growing up, we used to make comments, because kids, like I say, can be cruel at times.
Yes.
And we used to say things like, you look like Phil the gorilla. Phil was the ape, then the same goes zoo. And some people, even though they were human, they had features that were reminiscent of a primate.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying. And so I'm not trying to be funny. So when you say that he takes on the appearance of an ox, and we take that literal, but what you're saying is what he saw, he perceived based on something that he had been exposed to before,
Right.
i.e. the ox or the eagle or whatever the case may be.
Yes.
And not
Exactly.
necessarily literal ox. That's the only point that I'm trying to make. And as humans, we do that sometimes because we see individuals and they have certain characteristics that reminds us of certain things.
Now, if we were Hindu, we would say to us, you used to be a horse in your other life.
But I mean, it's just, if you think about it, I'm not the only one that's experienced that.
Yeah, it's just you.
No. I had an experience like that at a minister's conference, and it was scary as hell. I was supposed to get introduced to this bishop from Africa that was like something, he was all that in a bag of chips. And he had his back, he was a really short man. He had his back to me. And so I walk up and I think it was Bill Bazansky. And he said to me, oh yeah, I want to introduce you to Bishop such and such. The man turned around and I went, oh, I couldn't help it. He looked like a real gorilla. I am serious. His nose, he looked like
he had the features of a primate.
But some people just have them slightly, but his was so. I was like, I know he saw it, but he just smiled and he was nice. I was embarrassed because I knew it was on my face. He probably couldn't see because Bill Bazansky was really, really tall, and this guy was like maybe 5 feet tall. He was really short. But I'll never forget that when he turned around, I was like, oh my God, there's a monkey man. I mean, it wasn't just a little bit, you know, how you said somebody face might look like a horse or whatever, or have a little bit, but I mean, it was like literally, he looked like literally, he had the face of a gorilla. Literally. He was as dark as a gorilla. I mean, I was like, oh. I'll never forget that.
Maybe he thought she was in because she was a bishop.
Okay, maybe let's give it the benefit of the doubt. All right, I'll take that.
I was listening, talking about the hump, but you know, also when you go into the Gospels, each one of the Gospels represents a particular
One of those faces, actually,
faces,
yeah.
right. Luke was one. It was ox or a calf or whatever. And so when you read in Ezekiel about the 4 faces and the angel, it was like they were representing something of the 4 gospels.
Amongst other things, yeah.
Right. And then you also with the 12 tribes, each one of those animals were represented within the 12 tribes.
Yeah, each tribe had a stone, an animal, a color. Yeah.
And I think if you start really talking about the animals, it also was representative of different kingdoms at the time. Rome, Greece, somewhere else.
Kind of like,
Judah is the lion, you know, and so forth. Okay, that's all the articulated visions of prophecy are nothing more than ways of representing an abstract, formless spiritual reality in the vocabulary of human language, although to be sure they may also be a revelation of an angel in quite ordinary form, clothed in some familiar vessel and manifested as a normal phenomenon in nature. The difficulty is that the one who sees an angel in this way does not always know that it is an apparition, that the pillar of fire or in the image of a man does not belong entirely to the realm of natural cause and effect. And at the same time, the angel, that is to say, the force sent from a higher world, makes its appearance and to a certain extent acts in the material world, being either entirely subject to the laws of our world or operating in a sort of vacuum between the worlds, in which physical nature is no more than a kind of garment for some higher substance. In the Bible, Manoah, the father of Samson, sees the angel in the image of a prophet, yet he senses in some inexplicable way that it is not a man he sees, that he is witnessing a phenomenon of a different order. Only when the angel changes from form completely and becomes a pillar of fire does Manoah recognize that this being, this marvel which he has seen and with whom he has conversed, was not a man, not a prophet, but a being from another dimension of reality, that is to say, an angel.
This is the guy that kept trying to get the angel to tell his name, right? This,
I think so.
Yeah. I think he kept trying to get him to tell me he wanted to do a feast. So he said, go ahead and start a fire. This was a trick because this angel knew that when that fire started, it could jump in the flames and ride on back up to heaven. That's trickery and deceit. I don't think that's what angels are really for.
Well, sometimes they do. You know, Jesus tells us to be harmless as a dove, but sly as a, what was it, serpent? Yeah. So sometimes you have to have cunning. Fox. Well, it's some deceptive animal.
It's wise as a serpent and harmless as a dove.
What? That's a whole nother saying.
So here again, I'm not gonna read that. I think that's probably Kings about Samson. I mean, not Samson, yeah, Samson. They got Hercules this morning. But anyway. So, but what I really, no, but what I'm really trying to say though is this: So even if we go back and we understand, because by that very definition, what this author is saying is now we have, at least in my view, concrete proof, if you will, of the worlds above, not just necessarily heaven. And here again, once again, these are things that we were not taught. And so I find that kind of interesting. And so, and I think in another instance, with the three, been in the fiery furnace, and they didn't burn. The protection, when even though, like they say, we saw them, and they were like walking around figurines, human form, and yet they come out of the furnace unscathed. And so, and if that's some supernatural event that occurred, then I'm just saying potentially, maybe as a possible definition for it, those three were sort of either protected or transcended, if you will, between the physical world and another dimension, so that the physical effects of flame didn't harm their being.
They kind of phased out.
Yeah, they kind of
Yeah.
beam me up. You know,
Yeah.
once you start to think about these things, you can find different interpretations to what actually occurred.
Sure.
You know, as opposed to just something that's espoused. Because I mean, I always ask myself, well, how did that happen? I mean, it has to.
But the angels could also put basically a fence around them to where it doesn't touch them.
I understand that, but what I am saying is this: in creation, just like there are physical laws for action, there are some laws for those other worlds too.
Sure.
Just because that's what he says, you just can't necessarily, even though you may transcend down, because in some respects you're limited to what you can do here.
Sure.
And so that means that's a law.
Yeah.
As we say, a physical law.
So Dr. Connie, okay, so we were talking about the creating of angels, you know, the words, deeds, or whatever. But if you think about the angels that were on the top or the cover where the
Cherubim.
ark was inside, when Israel was doing right, it faced and covered like this. When they were doing wrong,
They turned their backs to each other.
Now, hold on now, because we know these were man-made angels, but
Yeah.
they still moved on their own.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a new revelation to create angels.
Not necessarily. Jesus walked through walls, walked on water. If you raise your frequency to a certain place, then you can defy the laws of this world because you're now operating in the other world, even if it is just momentarily.
But these were like made of gold. They made them with their hands, or probably too high hands, but you know what I mean. But
with specific instructions, though, directly from God.
Yeah.
With specific materials.
Some life on these.
Yeah.
But maybe those metals have a quality, and dipping now into alchemy, right? Have a particular transformative quality that we just haven't figured out yet.
But I was looking here
Huh?
in Ephesians, 3:10, it says all things were created by God.
Of course.
And that are in heaven and that are in earth, visible and invisible, whether they be thrones or dominions or principalities or powers, all things were created by him, for him.
Well, that's not a dispute,
And-
and we're not disputing that. What Anne
Yeah,
is saying,
but
they were crafted by man. That's what she is saying. Not the materials. We realize that they are created by God, but she's speaking about the angels on the Ark of the Covenant. They were crafted by Bezalel, who, by the way, was, for lack of a better term, in modern terms, an alchemist, basically, Kabbalist / alchemist.
So then we're talking about good angels and bad angels then?
We
or-
haven't gotten to the bad ones yet, but we'll get there.
So did you say, you said the Kabbalists are also alchemists?
Some of them can be, but that's and Bezalel. Bezalel was a special type of person. Okay, he
But
had
aren't alchemists also like wizards or something like that?
no. Yeah,
Alchemy is basically the study of chemistry.
yeah, that's what it basically is. But you know, legend has it that from a philosophical standpoint, they were trying to take regular metals and transmute them into gold. Particularly, they wanted to make a foundation stone. That's what they really wanted to do.
So, I mean, most people think like Dr. Strange. He's an alchemist. But people would say he was a witch or a wizard if you don't read the comic
Yes.
book for their understanding of it. And so it's not far-fetched when people could say that a person who engages in alchemy is personally a witch or what's the word from a warlord or something of that nature. Warlock, yeah, thank you.
Yeah. You know, a lot of things that are called witchcraft and wizardry and stuff like that. Back in from the Middle Ages, that's basically where it comes from. Today we have explanations for them, and they have totally different terms. You know, just because we don't know a thing, we will quickly label it witchcraft. But what true witchcraft is the manipulation of others by an ill will. That's what true witchcraft is. But being able to do spiritual things does not mean you're a wizard or a witch or whatever have you. It might just be one of your giftings.
Yeah, I was just asking because I think I've mentioned before one of the places where I work, where all the people pretty much proclaim to be witches or whatever, they actually have a classroom called like the alchemy room, and they have like weird stuff like crystals. And I know today I noticed something on one of the ladies' desk that said witch hunt, witch hut. It was her witch hut.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's a fad. You know, I really do think, because true witches don't reveal themselves with little labels. They don't.
They really like teach the kids
it's a
like
new
a lot of
club.
weird stuff too. Yeah. They just teach the kids a lot of weird stuff too that I don't know. It's almost like a matrix type of school, you know, like where they're I don't know. It's just kind of weird. But
Yeah,
then
I
I'd be
don't
like,
know.
well, why I'm there, Lord? Because unless he's trying to tell me I'm weird too, I don't know. So
Yeah, but there is a new fad out. Everybody calls themselves, I'm a witch, I'm a this. They're not really witches. They have no clue what that really is. It's just a new thing. They just, you know, want to do a new thing, just like the new age. And yeah, I don't pay that no mind. A true wizard, a true witch will never put a t-shirt on that says I'm a witch. They're not going to do that. They're going to look like me and you. So, yeah, when people do all that stuff, I say, okay, it's a new thing that you're doing. And yeah, I think it's cool.
So he is gonna get to the bad angel.
Yeah, he's going to get there. I'm trying to get there.
So the bad angels, those that
We create.
sexual union.
No, they are some of those, but we create the bad angels too.
Well, but see, he's having this discussion about angels, and I find it rather strange that he doesn't mention those angels that created the giants, the heathen.
Because he's not really coming. He's speaking from the four worlds perspective. He's not going basically into you know, that sort of thing. He's bringing it to us, you know, into our world, how things really happen. He's not going to the origins of the big bad wolves, so to speak. He's not going there. The creation of an angel in our world and the immediate relegation of this angel to another world is in itself not at all supernatural phenomenon. It is a part of a familiar realm of experience, an integral piece of life. which may even seem ordinary and commonplace because of its traditional rootedness in the system of mitzvot, or the order of sanctity. When we are in the act of creating the angel, we have no perception of the angel being created. And this act seems to be part of the whole structure of the practical material world in which we live. Similarly, the angel who is sent to us from another world does not always have a significance or impact beyond the normal laws of physical nature. Indeed, it often happens that the angel precisely reveals itself in nature in the ordinary common sense, world of causality, and only a prophetic insight or divination can show when and to what extent it is the work of higher forces. For man, by his very nature, is bound to the system of higher worlds, even though ordinarily this system is not revealed and known to him. As a result, the system of higher worlds seems to him to be natural, just as the whole of his two-sided existence, including both matter and spirit, seems self-evident to him. Man does not wonder at all about those passages he goes through all the time in the world of action, from the realm of material existence to the realm of spiritual existence. What is more, the rest of the other worlds that also penetrate our world may appear to us as part of something quite natural. It may be said that the realities of the angel and of the world of formation are part of a system of natural being, which is as bound by the laws as that aspect of existence we are able to observe directly. So he's basically saying that's very natural for angels to appear and to interact. It's the most natural thing in the world because that's how our world is set up. We just call it that because we're not aware. Therefore, neither the existence of the angel nor his mission, taking him from world to world, need break through the reality of nature in the broadest sense of the world. The domain of angels, the world of formation, is a general system of non-physical essences, most of them quite simple and consistent in their being. Each angel has a well-defined character, which is manifested in the way it functions in our world. This is why it is said that an angel can carry out only one mission, for the essence of an angel is beyond the existing many-sidedness of man. The particular essence of an angel can be evinced in terms of different things and separate forms, but it remains a single thing in itself, like a simple force of nature. Because even though the angel is a being that possesses divine consciousness, its specific essence and functions are not altered by it. Just as physical forces in the world are specific and single in their mode of function and do not keep changing their essences. It follows then that just as there are holy angels built into and created by the sacred system, there are also destructive angels called devils or demons, who are emanations of the connection of man with those aspects of reality which are the opposite of holiness. Here too, the actions of man and his modes of existence in all their forms create angels, but angels of another sort, from another level and a different reality. These are hostile angels that may be part of a lower world or even of a higher, more spiritual world. This last because even though they do not belong to the realm of holiness, as in all worlds and systems of being, there is a mutual interpenetration and influences between the holy and the not holy. So just as we create these wonderful angels, when we act stupid and out of anger and malice and hatred, we also create angels of a dark side. Sefer Yetzirah.
I mean, basically, that's what he's saying.
Yeah, most certainly.
What he's saying, though, is something I have to ask. And I told Seder, we talked about how we should have been in the synagogue. The man had the demon, and he was cast out of it. Now, he doesn't bring reference to that, but what is he saying then, because I'm kind of extrapolating here a little bit, that because of our dual nature, we can create something so bad or so powerful that it actually inherits parts of us. So that would be cast out?
I'm sure that that would be possible, but all demons that affect mankind are not necessarily the creation of man, because there are also demons that are created other ways.
Well, but even so, we refer to it as a demon or something bad, but yet, from my teachings, I understand that, as someone just said in Philippians, all things come from God,
Yes,
the good and the bad.
that's
the good
right.
And the demon. And so, if that's, then the question really becomes is, for what purpose? And I suspect that the purpose is, in a lot of cases, to get things back in balance.
And free will.
And free will.
Free will is probably the primarily reason. If there is no negative influences, how can you make a choice?
Well, yeah,
And how can you learn from your mistakes?
that's kind of
If
interesting.
you don't mess up, you can't, how can you learn?
Get a little pitch on it.
In the world.
See if we did it.
So this right here is a thin line between good and evil, very thin.
Well,
Yes, it is. It is. There's a thin line between that which is holy and that which is not, if you walk that thin line, so to speak. But it's inherent in us. You know, Paul makes this discourse where he talks about, when I want to do good, I find myself doing wrong. You know the spiel.
Yeah.
You know, there's this, I mean, even we ourselves are of a dual nature. It had to be that way so that we can contrast that which is, so we can even decide what is holy and what is not holy. That's the whole purpose of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, you know, to make that choice, to make that decision. What will you choose? Will you choose the good? Will you choose the negative? How can you make a choice if the negative is not there? It must be there. It serves a purpose. It is beneficial.
So the huge term negative.
Negative, evil,
No,
whatever.
That's my point, and I understand that. But what I am saying, negative is less harsh. than
Right.
evil. A lot less harsh.
But evil sometimes scares people half to death, you know. It drives them totally, what? I'm not evil, you know.
Yeah, you say it, you evil.
Well, but then one can argue that sometimes evil plays an important role for a better outcome. It might
Yeah.
not be, you know, immediately known at the time, but down the
That's
road,
right.
it can be, yeah.
That's
But
correct.
People don't see it that way. People automatically
Well,
when
yeah.
negative just means a lot of times you just opposite of what I was thinking.
Well, but then
Yeah.
again, in some people's mind, they think they're doing good, and other times they being evil. I mean, because it's like, for example, you exalt yourself, and therefore you become insensitive to other people's needs because you're so high up there, and you fail to
Yes.
perform your mitzvah, or whatever the case may be. I mean, you kind of see it all. I mean, even if we really are truly honest with ourselves, sometimes we even have to realize that I need to take a step back, or I was wrong. I did something I shouldn't have done. And you know, and you have to kind of atone for that some kind of way.
Yeah.
Yes.
So,
I think recognizing that you did wrong or said something wrong is the first step.
yeah, but even
And
so,
I would take it further than that, recognizing that you have the capacity to commit all kinds of evil. We all have that capacity.
absolutely.
We have the capacity to be the worst murderer in the world. It's in us. We don't want it and we keep it at bay, but we have the ability. It's in every human being. Y'all packing already? Is the time already? Got 5 minutes, y'all.
Oh, yeah. Well, you know, until now, disrespect.
Ooh,
Okay, immediately above the world of formation is the world called the world of creation, aka Berea, which, like the others, include many different realms, levels, and mansions. Oh, look at that word. And just as the world of formation is comprised of a multitude of spiritual beings whose essence is pure feeling and emotion, the world of creation is a world of pure mind. This mind quality of the world of creation is not a merely intellectual essence, but rather expresses itself as the power and capacity to grasp things with a genuine inner understanding, aka chokhmah. It is, in other words, the mind as creator as well as that which registers and absorbs knowledge. One of the other names for the world of creation is the world of the throne, taken from Ezekiel's vision of the divine throne of glory. This is in the world of Maria, where the seventh, the highest throne, Abarot, Abarot Rakia. That's what that throne is called, the throne of glory. We see that in the Zohar when we studied the Idra Rabbah, that came up. That is the highest throne that interacts, with the other worlds. On the whole, however, that aspect of the divine that is revealed to the prophet is the world directly above the world of creation, known as the world of emanation. This is the source from which God is made known to a few, while the world of creation is his seat or his throne, from which, as it is written, the earth is his footstool. So, he is seated, his place, his makom, is in the world of Berea. That's where his seat is. His head is way above that, right? But his feet reach all the way to our world. Moreover, the divine throne or chariot is the means through which the divine plenty ascends to the creatures and things of our world and makes contact with the many complex systems of all the worlds, so that the world of creation is also the crossroads of existence. It is the focal point at which the plenty rising from the lower worlds and the plenty descending from the higher worlds meet and enter into some sort of reaction with each other. Hence, an understanding of the way of the chariot. That's Tikkunei Zohar. That is an understanding of the way of the divine throne of glory, how it operates. And I think we can stop right there. I'm telling y'all so y'all can remind me. Come on now. There we go. Let's make that.
So we're going to stop at Gloria operates and pick up
Yes.
is the highest secret of eccentric
Yes.
doctrine.
Of the secret esoteric doctrine.
Secret esoteric doctrine.
That is where we will stop.
So clearly this is a conflict.
Yeah.
And the question that I have in my mind is, it's almost like, has he entered the orchard and returned?
I don't know. I don't know that much about Aiden Steinsaltz, but he wrote this book not even knowing if somebody would read it. But he wanted to make it understandable. So obviously he has the knowledge and possibly the experience.
Yeah, that's what I was getting at.
Yeah.
Because, we've seen it in different ways, but it's sort of the same thing.
Yeah. And since then, it has become a very, very popular book. Yeah, very, because people can actually, understand what he's saying.
If I just read this for the first time, I'll be like, what?
Yeah.
What have you been smoking?
Yeah.
Some good stuff.
But even like you said, like on this journey yourself, even before we came to the class, like you said, you thought keto was one thing, and as you go further on, you get a different perspective.
Yes.
So illumination does come.
Oh, it will come.
It's just that it's.
And at some
it's a
point, it
slow
will start
process.
to run.
Yeah. But the fact that we form a world, and I think a lot of times, I kind of like what he said in here, though, and I think people intuitively know, because like you say, we have experiences, but they just refer to it as heaven. But here is just a little bit more discreet in terms of the world of formation. And it kind of makes sense to me the first time I read it, because you talk about the creative act of it, but then also you talk about its preparation even before it comes into this world.
Yeah.
So it's so when we say God said let there be, okay, yeah, God said let there be, but the how was never really defined, and this kind of puts it into the how perspective.
Yeah.
How things came into being. Of course, there are some that say that ain't necessary, but
Well, for them, it probably isn't, because they have no desire to know.
well, I remember I told Brenda one day, I was kind of excited about them, so see, it ain't like God was standing on one side of the room and threw the other and said, let there be the earth, or let there be light. And so if you think about it, it makes sense. Like he said, before there was anything, God pervaded everything. So how could he not?
All right. Very good. Online people, yeah, have a great night. We see you all next week.
Shalom.
Good night, Lailato.
Good night.
Alato.
Alato.
Find the button.